How you doing today, Chris?
Fantastic. And how are things there in sunny California?
Things are good. We did not get snowed out. We got snowed with a crazy guy trying to kill cops.
Yeah, Big Bear has definitely been kind of a center of attention for a couple of days here. I remember Big Bear when I lived out on the coast.
Yeah, nice little mountain town. You would never suspect that California would have a mountain town.
Well, especially Southern Cal, because in an hour and a half you can be nude in the surf down there in Seal Beach or, Laguna Beach, all those great places. But I used to hang out in Tahoe a lot, and boy, you talk about a mountain town with
Yeah,
very odd vibes. I mean, that place is just weird.
it is. 49ers came across those mountains.
Right, right. And Donner's Pass is a creepy, scary area.
Mm-hmm. It
And then
is.
Tahoe has that huge impression left on it by the mob because the east side of Tahoe is part of Nevada. So you have a lot
Uh-huh.
of casinos and gambling and Sinatra and his gang were very, very visible there for many, many years. So,
Yeah, that's where all the whorehouses were too.
oh yeah. So, and you wonder who is in the bottom of the lake that has never been identified
Oh, that
as
is true.
having gone missing.
Well, it's so weird how the universe brought us to this point talking about this, but it's so funny because all of that period was Neptune and Pisces in the late 1840s and 50s was the last time Neptune was in Pisces.
Yes,
So,
and unfortunately, the darker side of Neptune offers us cannibalism as an alternative. So
mm,
that's kind of creepy, scary too.
yeah. Very crazy stuff. Well, this is another big banging week we got coming up here. I mean, we're going to be switching into Pisces full gear with the sun. How do you feel about it?
I am revved up and ready to go. Friday we have the sun at 27 of Aquarius, and
Hmm.
my moon is in Aquarius, so it's going from my moon sign into my sun sign, which is very
Yeah.
cool. And I love having that Aquarian moon because with that Pisces sensitivity, I have to drag myself back from the edge frequently.
Yeah.
But then we have the grand lineup, the Neptune, Mars, and Mercury all being activated by the sun as it moves into Pisces. So
Yeah,
it is.
this is going to be pretty impactful, especially because Chiron's still there. So we're going to have five big energies, and this is a lot of sensitivity. I'm calling it, we're very sensitive on our inside. I mean, this is going to be some interesting waters we're going to be swimming in. And but it's that weekend, the weekend of this week coming up, like we really just finish off the Aquarius thing, that 27, 28, 29 here is like, all right, we really have to electrify everything in our life. And I talked a lot of my horoscopes this week about Aquarius. A lot of people think Aquarius because of Valentine's Day is like all about love, but I've been telling people this is where our love reaches the connections in our life. This is where like the light bulbs turn on with your love in your life, where they actually turn into something. It might not necessarily be exactly what it is you love, which is so interesting about Aquarius. It's like where your love reaches.
Hmm.
It's a very interesting sign. It's actually the weirdest of all the signs, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And most Aquarian people, if they're really true to their nature, they are very unique souls and either a great chum to hang out with or the most challenging person you have in your life. So
Hmm.
they really reflect the mood of the sign.
Well, I like Aquarius because it comes after Capricorn. It is the breaking free of, old paradigms and stepping into the future. And I believe this weekend, as we get prepped for Pisces, we get this last weekend here to really put out to the universe the future that we want to innovate in our lives, the changes we want to make as far as, breaking free of anything in our life. This is the last weekend to become clear of what you want to detach from, become clear of what you really want to innovate and electrify in your life and move forward into the future. And this is a future of spirit, which is so beautiful that we're coming into.
Oh, absolutely. And like you were saying, we are moving through that transitional phase. And as we had noted earlier before we started recording our conversation, I wanted to briefly highlight the 29th degree of a sign, which everybody is, there's a lot of dialogue about it being a critical degree, and then the 0 degree that it flops over into.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh, 0 degree, it's going nowhere, it is nothing, the universe is disengaged for that day. And that is absolutely not true. Because, number one, the 29th degree is your review. So when you have a planet or a position in your chart at a 29th degree, you've already gone through that entire house. You've already gone through that entire phase and learned all that was necessary in order to be able to utilize the energy of, let's say, Sagittarius. Your sun is at 29 degrees, 58 minutes of Sagittarius. That means you've finished the Sagittarius crap. So now you're already moving into Capricorn. You're already embracing a new theme. But in that that zone between that 29th degree and the 1st degree of Sagittarius, or I mean Capricorn, we would have 0 degrees Capricorn, or 30 degrees of Sagittarius. And people all stop and forget about that 30th degree.
It is 30.
And, right. So you really have your sun strongly anchored in the old sign, and yet your vision is gazing toward your instincts, your desires, your needs are moving into the next sign. So this is a very interesting pivotal point. And like you have 0 degrees Leo, that means you operate on a very Cancerian level in a lot of ways. You're Mr. Heart, you're Mr. Nurturing, you've got all these Cancerian vibes, but you've also got this vision of climbing the highest mountain, becoming the Leo, being the leader of the pack, that sort of thing, or the pride in instance of the Leos. But yeah, it's a very dynamic time that we go through, even though it's very brief, because we are making a big shift.
It's a huge shift. It's the blending. It's a lot like music, how DJs blend music together when they're switching to the next track. That's really what I look at that period is. It's the mix where you get both tracks playing together at the same time. And we transition and fade out to the other track or to the other sign. But there is that moment there where you're relieving that old song, that old vibration, and you mix with a new vibration, and it really creates a magical period. It is a magical period. It really is the universe doesn't turn things off to switch things. It has to always keep going. And the energy never stops. Like you said, I love that you said that, because I feel the same way, especially being a cusper myself. Like, I can honestly say this energy never stops. And I look at the tarot cards. I think it's interesting if you look at a lot of the major arcana, you can have fun looking at those cusps with them. Like, for example, that Cancer Leo that I am, I look at that a lot, like the Chariot card, because it's a very interesting card, and it's kind of like turning your back on the society and going for spiritual, things, but still being a leader. It's a very weird card. I also look at that Pisces Aquarius cusp as the Magician as well. There's a lot of that extra Aquarian vibe I always feel with the Magician as well. It's that cusp. I really think you can take all the different major arcanas and pick them out and start to have fun with the blending of both energies.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a beautiful way to state it, that segue from one song to another. And that's really what our life is. Our life is a song. Mm-hmm. And it is a dance, and we transition from, one theme to another. And speaking of tarot, I pulled a card for this week in advance, and it's the Ace of Cups. So get your heart ready to be filled to the brim and overflowing with that love that comes from that deep place within you. So you're probably going to be feeling a little bit emotional, a little bit all over the map at times, but it's a very, very powerful time for us as all of this warmth from the sun begins to step into Pisces and cast its light into Neptune. So it can be steamy.
This is going to be interesting because Saturn goes retrograde Monday as the sun comes into Pisces. So, you know, the weekend really does shift us into this very cuspy period that we just talked about. But then right off the bat, we really go into some radically new energy. Saturn going retrograde, you notice these things in your life. Saturn has been building and working just like the typical Capricorn away at restructuring your life and really having you become clear of a lot of deep emotional stuff. This is Scorpio. This is our desires. This is, you know, dark stuff. This is fear-based stuff. This is also some very high explosive, really positive energy too. That's the one thing about Scorpio. It's very on and off, very black and white, very cut and dry. And so you're going to start to see now this week as Saturn goes retrograde, some relief as far as not feeling like you've been trekking up the mountains so much. It's time to really start to look back and see what you have been building in your life, what you have been becoming aware of the cuts you're making deep in your soul to realize a lot of these deep emotions in your life.
Absolutely. And also, interestingly, Saturn is at 11 degrees of Scorpio. And as it starts to move back, it'll hit that 10th degree, which is that first decade of Scorpio. So you will notice a little bit of a shift in the theme. You know, it will be the Cancerian energy that appears in the first 10 days of the Saturn vibration. Yeah. So you're going to have that two element of Cancer, Saturn, and then Scorpio, or Cancer, Scorpio, and then Saturn moving back across that pivotal point. Yeah. Again, that's going to enhance the emotional range. You're going to feel your emotions, and you're going to have to stop and identify what it is that you're feeling. It's going to be a very interesting day on Monday.
Yeah, I think it's great you pulled the Ace of Cups. I think the best reason why that is pulled is because emotionally speaking, I really think we've been going through a little bit of the ringer as far as like when you go into Scorpio emotions, those are the deepest emotions. Those are the ones that we don't pull out of our hat much. We usually keep them deep down. We use them for moments like sex. We use them for moments where if there's a death in the family, we use these for moments that are very extreme moments. We use this if you have to go to war kind of energy and use your emotions to stay protected. So these are very raw, you know, very human, but we don't like to talk about these emotions much. That's why they're in Scorpio. So I think the Ace of Cups gives us this new heart relief as far as emotions go because Saturn goes, all right, you know, I've done my work. I've got to take a nap. You know, I've let you seen some of these really extreme, you know, parts of yourself and emotions, and these can be deep fears. You know, they can be scary.
Yeah, and more importantly, they're transformative, and that's one of the things we resist. You know we need to change. We know we need to take the next step, and sometimes it takes Saturn with its cattle prod to you know, force us to step up to our own personal evolutionary path. Well, next week the dominant theme is going to be the Death card. Ooh. So you know, it's very Neptunian, and as the sun is moving toward Chiron, we're going to see a lot of these old wounds that we have had for decades starting to be healed and fall away. So there is a death and a chrysalis that happens next week, and then the following week we'll begin to emerge as the butterfly from that you know, that very deep, intense movement of the sun across Neptune, Chiron, and advancing up into the Piscean energy.
Well, this is also going to be the last, well, next week, you know, we're getting ready for Mercury retrograde next week. So this is Mercury actually starting to slow down now. This week he's starting to slow down. Mars is catching up speed too. So this is going to be interesting to watch on how, Mars is going to hump over Mercury one more time in the next couple weeks. And that's going to be a really pivotal place, because as Mercury's, getting ready to go right now and go backwards, Mars is saying, nah, sorry, I'm going to keep going ahead. I'm blazing ahead. And it's interesting because Mars in Pisces right now, to bring up a little history, we were in Mars in Virgo exactly a year ago right now when it was retrograde. So Mars, it takes a year, to go around half the zodiac. So he's at his halfway point right now, in Pisces, where he's juiced up and he's ready to go on his last year here before he goes retrograde at the beginning of 2014, which, when Mars goes retrograde, those can be very tough times. It can be very hard to find the courage to make anything happen. The Earth slows down a lot with Mars, but he's going to pass through Mercury coming up here and give us one more big clarity with Mercury right before the retrograde to understand where we're going to push forward in our life, where we need to act in our life. And I think this is a godsend, since we've just had Mars and Mercury conjunct, and we get it right again very quick here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's taking a lot of benevolent energy because of the sextile to Pluto and Capricorn.
Yeah.
And I always relate Pluto and Mars as being the lower vibration and the higher vibration.
Mm.
If you look at the way the planets line up, Venus is the lower vibration that Jupiter represents. And then the highest vibration of that is Neptune.
Yeah.
And with Mars, that's the lower vibration of Pluto. And it also has a lot of attraction to Uranus. So you have those two higher vibrations that Mars often reflects. And then Mercury, the great communicator, comes along, and it has a tendency to channel a lot of Saturnian energy simply because it is forcing us to listen to what we're saying and to listen to what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
So, with our minds always in turmoil, with our activities being revved up with this Martian infusion, it's almost a good thing that Mercury is kind of pulling back a little bit and calming things down.
Yeah, and Mercury he doesn't like to be in Pisces much, as far as he wants to figure out the logical sense, type numbers on a calculator kind of deal. And I told a lot of my audience yesterday or the other day, it's, we're in an ocean. There's a lot of things in an ocean. There's fish, there's plankton, there's whales. I mean, there's like so much. Mercury's overwhelmed with all this imagination in the universe. Mercury realizes that his mind can't figure it all out, that the universe is infinite in Pisces. Mm-hmm. And so this is where we learn to adjust our brains to be more in tune with spirit, to be more in tune with the infinite, to not trip out over things when you can realize that, geez, if you were to just dip your head in the ocean and realize that 75% of the surface of the Earth is the ocean, I guarantee you could not figure everything out. It's impossible.
Right. Well, and also, Mercury being in Pisces and the ambiguous nature of Pisces, the way it's going to show up in your life is it's going to be, you're sensing something's wrong but not knowing exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. Because when Mercury is in a very strong and somewhat edgy sign, like when Mercury goes retrograde in Gemini, for instance, then your computer explodes. Oh, computer's dead. Buy a new computer. But as it's doing its backward dance in Pisces, your computer may go through 10 different transformations before it finally dies, and you're wondering what the hell's going on. So it does create a lot of confusion and almost vacuous kind of energy that will suck you in to looking for things below the surface. So it's not going to be a real in-your-face retrograde. It's going to be much more subtle, and you're going to have to stop and actually ask your higher consciousness for answers. They're not just going to appear on the surface of the land.
And the other interesting thing about this week, I forgot to mention, is, the Sun and Neptune conjunct this week. Mm-hmm. And that is probably going to be one of the most powerful, very spiritual moments for a lot of us this week, and really, really a lot about this intuition you just talked about with Mercury. We get it even in our own sense. You know, this is us juicing up our very important internal, very spiritual core. This is really where we have to really understand how to listen to this spiritual energy at the and this is what's going to help us for the next month as we're in Pisces. You know, one thing is, it's so lucky to have Neptune in here and right at the beginning, because we get to understand it quick, and the rest of this month will go by very well, as long as this week, as we step into Pisces, as it hits Neptune, as we do have this Mercury retrograde getting ready. I mean, this is going to be a powerful month. So this week is the start of it, of this new, and you know, this is the end, right? Pisces is the end of the chart. So this is where we change. It's mutable. This is where we finish things in our life. We let go of things that we're learning to detach with in Aquarius, but it's in Pisces where we literally take the new boat and leave. We go, okay, bye. You know?
Yeah. And by the time the end of the week arrives, the Tarot's vision of the energy that you're going to be moving through and entering into is the Star card.
Ooh.
So by next Friday, you are going to arrive at a place where you have unlimited potential being presented to you. Now, of course, you know, it's absolutely up to you to take it and run with it. But yes, after Neptune is energized by the sun's transit, and all of these forward-moving planets are giving you that boost, if you are willing to get past your fear and your inhibitions and whatever antagonisms you have about life, you're going to see, you know, a magical period of almost spontaneous manifestation. So, you know, keep your conscience clear and keep your expectations going in the right direction. Don't expect to get up in the morning and have a flat tire, because you probably will. You know, expect to get up in the morning and feel 100% and have a rockin' day.
Ah, I think that's very important. I think that's the lesson of Neptune and Pisces is, and especially because Mercury's here, that really learn to go with the flow and surrender to the universe, surrender to it. And
Absolutely.
Because Saturn's trining all this, it's like, yeah, you better be very clear on the boundaries you set emotionally as well, because I think they're emotional energies, and our thoughts are in this emotional world. They're trying to learn how to figure out these emotions, and it can translate them in the wrong way. So it's good to be clear on what Spirit's telling you and learn to trust your gut and to trust Spirit, and then bring that positive attitude to those emotions.
Yeah, and the other thing is appreciation, rejoicing, and you know, celebration, community. Those are all very Piscean themes too. Pisces loves to dance. It loves to sing. And Neptune, of course, infuses that Neptunian beauty and mystical experience into that Piscean vibe.
Yes.
So, and that's kind of a segue here, because I'm going to do a plug for my buddy Yuval Ron. And Yuval Ron is a musician. He has an ensemble. He is a Jewish fellow, and most of the members of the ensemble are Middle Eastern people, Arabs and Jews. And February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, at 8 p.m. at the Rockefeller Memorial Chapel here at the University of Chicago, he is producing a concert that is ancient sacred music, and the point of it all is community and embracing each other. And this is really an international event in a lot of ways, and it's free. So if you're in the greater Chicago region, if you're, you know, hanging out here in the Midwest, it would be worth taking the effort to show up for the concert, because you'll experience music that was current 600 years ago, 1,000 years ago, performed on instruments that are authentic to the time. Wow. So it's pretty cosmic. And, you know, you look at the lineup for that day, you've got, okay, the sun is at 27 Aquarius, which is that very Aquarian, you know, we are one community, the one world consciousness. Neptune's at 2 degrees of Pisces. Mars is at 10 degrees of Pisces. Mercury's at 15 degrees of Pisces, so it's all about infusing energy into communication, sharing, and beautifully enough, the moon will have moved into Taurus. So you're going
Yes.
to have that Taurus appreciation of refined experiences. So how cool is that?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. It's actually one of the great days. I'm excited. My descendant's 26 Aquarius, so it's so funny that Valentine's Day is where my perfect partner is.
Ooh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Isn't that interesting? So I vibe well when I leave the first 26 degrees of Aquarius. I'm done with that sixth house. I'm like, let's move into partnership.
Hmm.
So yeah, so big change. And that's a wonderful day in the astrology as well. I mean, with that moon, because the moon is tapping into all the Pisces energy as far as Pluto as well, trining. So it's a very powerful day. You could actually change your life emotionally that day. That could really bring a new way to feel in your life.
Yeah, and that also has long-term effects. So,
Hmm.
and that's the most important thing. If you're looking for a cut and dry, oh, this very second in time, I magically became enlightened and everything changed. It's like, well, you're going to be waiting a long time for that.
Yeah.
But note those high points because the subtle transformations are the thing that you will appreciate a year from now and 5 years from now. You'll look back at this era and say, wow, that was very empowering.
You know, what's interesting about the 15th is I think Valentine's Day wishes it would have been on the 15th.
Yes.
Yeah, because on the moon's in Aries on this Valentine's Day after a Saturn Venus square. You know, I think a lot of people are really going to start to understand themselves more and really have to look deep inside. And, you know, I think there's been a lot of questions on partnership lately, especially if they're in tune with the emotional field that you really desire. And I think this Valentine's Day is a wake up call for those who are actually unconscious to the energy. I think it's a
Hmm.
wake up call about your relationship. So it's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
Uranus is sudden change. So
Mhm.
that person you dumped 5 years ago, 12 miles outside of Omaha, in a snowstorm, they're going to show up on your doorstep, and it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, it's a wild one. Well, what a great week to look forward to. I'm excited for the Pisces energy. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's going to be a rocking week, and David, I know that you're, in that transitional phase with contract signing and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting the stories you have for us next week about how your career is unfolding under this
Yeah.
powerful set of transits.
Well, and you know, Jupiter goes to 7 degrees this week, and that's my Chiron. My Chiron's 7 Gemini. So we're gonna see what Jupiter does to my Chiron. Last time it was here was last year, and I happened to be the top story on Yahoo for astrology. So I'm kind of like, well, let's see what I get delivered again here.
It's going to be sweet.
Yeah. So, well, Chris, I can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah, have a fantastic week. Love you, kiddo.
All right,
And
love you too, man.
yeah, everybody get out there and share the love. Pass it all around.
All right,
Right.
bye.
Bye.